Notice anything about these beer commercials? Anything that they might have in common? Perhaps you already knew this, but every time I bring it up in conversation, at least one person is surprised to find that you can't actually show people drinking beer in beer commercials. And as far as I know, only one company has bothered to make fun of this in their ad. Big foamy mugs, sweating with condensation, glasses raised for a cheers. Michelob seems obsessed with proving their beer is an exercise drink, but never the act of consumption. You can show the fun you have while drinking, but not, well, drinking. Why is that? Well, while it is technically not illegal to show drinking, there are codes of conduct and agreements reached between networks, advertisers, and trade associations such as the Beer Institute that decided if you want your commercial to air, your actors cannot swallow a single drop. It's also industry standard to include the minimum drinking age and the vague advice, drink responsibly. Well, this all looks pretty responsible. What's the big deal? What's drinking irresponsibly? Alcohol is a drug, a central nervous system depressant to be exact, that decreases activity in the brain, which is what makes you drunk. The euphoria, sociability, and reduced anxiety all come from your brain working slower, as do the physical and mental impairments. It is also addictive and can lead to something called alcohol use disorder, commonly known as alcoholism, which just means that despite drinking causing you problems, you continue to drink anyway. This can lead to dependence, and if it gets bad enough, when you try to stop drinking without medical assistance, the withdrawals can kill you. Please drink responsibly. To say nothing of the well-known physical consequences of alcohol both in the short and long term, hangovers, liver failure, cardiovascular disease, brain damage, cancer, there's been a wealth of scientific research linking alcohol use disorder to major depression. One such study's data suggests that it is far more likely for alcohol use disorder to cause major depression than the other way around, and that treating the alcohol use could potentially cure the depression. Depressed people who self-medicate with alcohol are digging themselves a deeper hole, thinking it's a ladder. Please drink responsibly. Alcohol is also associated with violent behavior, particularly intimate partner violence. Researchers Heather Foran and Daniel O'Leary reviewed 8 studies on the relationship for the journal Clinical Psychology Review and found that alcohol use had a significant effect on the likelihood of not only male-to-female partner violence, but also female-to-male partner violence. Historically, and understandably so, there has been some pressure from advocacy groups to downplay alcohol's role in the abuse, particularly of women, as it shifts blame from the abuser to the drug. However, according to Foran and O'Leary, alcohol's impact is too great to ignore while addressing the issue properly. As expected, increased severity of the drinking had an impact on the severity of the violence. Please drink responsibly. So yes, we do advertise alcohol on television, but thankfully we don't show anyone drinking it because that might give people the wrong idea. If alcohol is so bad, why do we have such unfettered access compared to other drugs? You can't advertise cigarettes on TV, but you don't hear too many stories about someone smoking a pack of cigarettes and waking up in jail soaked in their own urine. There are cities in this country whose entire tourist industry is built around the idea you can drink 24/7. Why not ban alcohol altogether? Cancer, depression, and violence seem like decent enough reasons. Well, we tried. It didn't go exactly as planned. The 18th Amendment, passed in 1920, banned the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol. While alcohol consumption inarguably decreased, and the amendment was the product of a growing temperance movement that recognized the consequences of alcohol abuse, there were serious social costs related to the enforcement of the law's drain on resources, as well as the crime and violence that developed along with the emerging black markets. Remind you of anything going on right now? Kinda? Okay, stay with me. Now, this isn't to say that smart policy and certain partial prohibitions are incapable of mitigating the destructive capacity of alcohol while avoiding the natural results of a nationwide ban. A study of the minimum drinking age in the 70s and 80s, a period where it fluctuated between 18 and 21, showed that states that raised the age to 21 cut alcohol-related vehicular fatalities by an average of 12%, and those that bumped the age down to 18 experienced a 10% increase in fatalities. Using India as a case study, a nation whose states implement varying levels of prohibition, a study found that states with the strictest regulations against alcohol also exhibited reduced rates of crime against women, approximating 400 crimes per 10,000 people. So even though we know that we can never go back to the 18th Amendment and total prohibition, we also understand that certain restrictions are necessary to prevent otherwise avoidable negative outcomes associated with alcohol. Plenty of people are able to enjoy the benefits of alcohol without driving their car through a Denny's. Great. Perfect. Next up, psychedelics, specifically classic or serotonergic psychedelics, things like LSD, psilocybin, or magic mushrooms, have recently become, well, again, an area of interest for pharmacologists. Now, these are classified as Schedule 1 drugs in the United States, meaning that according to the United States government, they have a high potential for abuse, have no currently accepted medical use and treatment in the United States, and there is a lack of accepted safety for use of the drug or other substance under medical supervision. Let's do a little compare and contrast, and everything I'm about to say is backed by, in some cases, decades of research published in peer-reviewed academic journals. I've put my bibliography in the description below. Alcohol has a high potential for abuse. Duh. Psychedelics are not known to harm the brain or other body organs or to cause addiction or compulsive use, and serious adverse events involving psychedelics are extremely rare. While not fully confirmed because of problems with binding and the fact they are still Schedule 1, psychedelics in trials have time and time again shown promise in treating anxiety, depression, and increasing neuroplasticity. Other studies have found that psychedelic use correlates with reduced recidivism and intimate partner violence among people convicted of a crime previously. Alcohol, on the other hand, while useful as a sanitary agent and a solvent in certain medicines, is only prescribed orally to treat addiction to alcohol. If someone in Scrubs is handing you a dose of vodka, you are not being treated for existential distress. Now, the third category is admittedly where things get a little murky. It is fair to say that currently psychedelics would fall under this category due to the challenges psychedelics present in a clinical setting. The word accepted is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this instance. And alcohol is not violating the third criteria, for certain. However, any kind of health benefit directly attributable to small amounts of alcohol, like a glass of red wine with dinner, has been debunked. Any amount of alcohol is unsafe, so eat some grapes instead and reap those cardiovascular benefits. Now, I am not calling for alcohol to be made a Schedule 1 drug, far from it. I am merely pointing out the hypocrisy of our current policy when it comes to psychedelic drugs, which I think could end up helping a lot of anxious, depressed people in due time. That these two drugs could be treated so differently, despite the scientific research surrounding them, could only be a product of irrational stigmas, anecdotal evidence, or just plain ignorance. There's a fear that if these drugs were to become legal, everyone would be walking around zonked out of their minds, waving to the Michelin Man instead of their mailman. Legal or even decriminalized, lower schedule psychedelics will have people losing control of their faculties, not knowing where they are, or maybe even blacking out. Not only is this a media-driven misrepresentation of how the drugs largely function, it ignores that just like alcohol, it can be taken in moderation, taken responsibly. And you can microdose alcohol too. Microdose being the term for taking a relatively small amount of psychedelics, which actually doesn't have any scientifically proven benefit, but has not been proven to be harmful either. Silicon Valley types love it, which, now that I think about it, maybe I should have admitted from the video. Anyways, you can microdose alcohol too. It's called having one Modelo at a baseball game. Perfectly acceptable behavior. But we have decided that adults cannot responsibly use psychedelics, despite there being little to no evidence it is habit-forming or damaging to your health. So be it. But I think if that is the case, we must seriously reevaluate what we allow people to do with alcohol. If people are going to self-medicate anyways, why not let them do it with something that doesn't actively cause the disease they are medicating? So, what will it be, America? A freer nation or carry nation?